Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to step back in time to an era of glittering lights, soaring melodies, and the intoxicating promise of stardom. But beneath the dazzling surface of disco and pop, sometimes there lies a story far more complex, tinged with a quiet sorrow. We're going to talk about a young man who burst onto the scene like a supernova, blessed with undeniable talent, astonishing good looks, and a name that carried the weight of musical royalty. Yet, his journey, so full of early triumphs, ultimately became a poignant whisper in the annals of music history. We're talking about Andy Gibb, the youngest brother, the golden boy, who, despite having the world at his feet, would find himself tragically lost in its dazzling yet often isolating embrace. His was a life lived under a microscope, illuminated by the successes of his legendary older brothers, the Bee Gees, but shadowed by his own personal demons and a constant search for identity and belonging. Prepare to delve into the heart of a story that is as much about the human spirit's fragility as it is about the fleeting nature of fame. To truly understand Andy Gibb, we must first immerse ourselves in the vibrant tapestry of the 1970s, the decade that would define his brief, spectacular career. This was an era of profound cultural shifts where the lingering idealism of the 60s was giving way to a more self-aware, sometimes extravagant expression. Bell-bottoms and platform shoes were not just fashion statements. They were declarations of individuality. Music, too, was undergoing a seismic transformation. Rock and roll still held sway, but a new, infectious rhythm was pulsating through dance floors across the globe. Disco. It was a sound synonymous with escapism, with joy, with freedom. The glittering mirror ball became an emblem of a new kind of communal celebration. Amidst this vibrant landscape, the Bee Gees, Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb, had already carved out an unprecedented legacy. From their early folk rock harmonies to their masterful reinvention as disco titans with the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, they were more than just a band. They were a phenomenon. They were a family, a unit, and their success cast a long, benevolent shadow. It was into this world, both electrifying and immensely competitive, that Andy Gibb, the baby of the family, stepped. Born Andrew Roy Gibb on March 5, 1958, on a blustery Isle of Man, he arrived years after his famous siblings, almost like an unexpected encore to the Gibb family's musical saga. While his older brothers were already navigating the complexities of recording contracts and international fame, Andy's childhood was in many ways more conventional, albeit still deeply intertwined with music. The family eventually settled in Australia, where the brothers' talents blossomed, and it was there, amidst the sun-drenched landscapes and burgeoning music scene, that Andy first picked up a guitar. He wasn't just the youngest. He was, by all accounts, the most sensitive, the most yearning for connection, and perhaps the most susceptible to the pressures that lay ahead. He idolized his brothers, their success a dazzling beacon, but also an intimidating benchmark. This early life, steeped in music and the unique dynamics of the Gibb family, provided the foundation for a trajectory that would be both meteoric and heartbreakingly brief. Andy's musical journey began early, almost instinctively. Unlike his older brothers who formed their band in their early teens, Andy's path was more solitary at first. He started performing in small clubs in Ibiza and Australia, honing his craft, finding his voice. His talent was undeniable. He had the distinctive Gibb falsetto, an inherent melodic sensibility, and a stage presence that was both charming and charismatic. But it was more than just inherited talent. Andy possessed an innate warmth, a genuine appeal that resonated with audiences. His youthful exuberance was infectious. He wasn't just singing, he was performing from the heart, pouring his nascent dreams into every note. The turning point came when he caught the attention of Robert Stigwood, the impresario who managed the Bee Gees and founded RSO Records. Stigwood saw in Andy not just a younger Gibb, but a star in his own right. In 1976, Andy moved to Florida, into the very orbit of his brothers and their formidable producer, Barry Gibb, who would become a pivotal figure in Andy's early success. Barry took his youngest brother under his wing, writing and producing many of Andy's most iconic hits. This was a testament to the family's bond, a genuine desire to see their youngest brother flourish. Andy Gibb's debut album, Flowing Rivers, released in 1977, was an instant success. His first single, I Just Want to Be Your Everything, co-written by Barry Gibb, shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, where it stayed for 4 weeks. He was only 19 years old. It was a dream come true, a validation of years of quiet dedication. He followed this with another #1, Love Is Thicker Than Water, and then Shadow Dancing, which became his biggest hit, spending 7 weeks at #1. Andy Gibb became the first solo artist in history to have his first 3 singles reach the top of the Billboard Hot 100. This was an astonishing feat, placing him in an elite echelon of pop superstars. His albums went platinum, his concerts sold out, and his face graced the covers of teen magazines worldwide. He was the quintessential teen idol, a heartthrob with a voice that could melt hearts and a smile that could light up a stadium. But beneath the surface of this skyrocketing success, the seeds of future struggles were already being sown. The pressure was immense. He was constantly compared to his legendary brothers, expected to replicate their monumental success, yet carve out his own identity. While Barry's guidance was invaluable, it also meant Andy was often perceived as Barry's little brother rather than a standalone artist. This duality, this constant pull between family legacy and personal ambition, became a quiet, internal battle. One rarely discussed aspect of Andy's early life, pre-fame, speaks volumes about his character. Before he truly hit it big, while still trying to find his footing, Andy was married briefly to Kim Reeder. This was a young love born in Australia, a fleeting attempt at normalcy before the maelstrom of superstardom hit. Kim was pregnant with their daughter, Peta, when Andy's career exploded. The demands of touring, recording, and the relentless machinery of the music industry proved too much for their nascent marriage. They divorced in 1978, just as Andy was reaching the zenith of his fame. This early experience of marital breakdown, coupled with the birth of a child he wouldn't get to see as often as he wished, left a profound emotional scar. He yearned for stability, for a connection that fame seemed to constantly threaten. He often spoke of his daughter with deep affection and regret for the distance that grew between them. This unfulfilled paternal role, so early in his adult life, was a quiet heartbreak that few outside his inner circle truly understood. It wasn't the typical rock star narrative of wild abandonment. It was a deeply personal sadness of a young man caught between burgeoning global fame and the quiet domestic life he fleetingly touched. As his star continued to rise, so too did the personal challenges. The late 70s were an era of excess, and Andy, young, impressionable, and surrounded by the temptations of the music industry, found himself increasingly entangled. His relationship with actress Victoria Principal, while highly publicized and seemingly idyllic on the surface, was another chapter that revealed his longing for deep connection and his vulnerability. Their romance was the stuff of tabloids, a beautiful, glamorous couple. Victoria, already an established star, seemed to offer a grounding presence, But the intensity of their public life, combined with Andy's escalating personal struggles, ultimately led to their separation. He was often quoted as saying that Victoria was the love of his life, and their breakup seemed to plunge him deeper into despair. This wasn't merely a celebrity breakup. It was a devastating personal blow to a man who craved emotional anchor. His struggle with substance abuse, particularly cocaine, began subtly but escalated rapidly. The late nights, the constant travel, the pressure to perform, to be on all the time, these were fertile grounds for addiction to take root. Unlike his brothers, who had a collective strength and a shared history to lean on, Andy was a solo artist. While he had the unwavering support of his family, the isolation of his individual stardom, coupled with a sensitive disposition, made him particularly susceptible. The very success that was supposed to bring him happiness seemed to amplify his inner turmoil. He was a bright, warm presence on screen and stage, but off stage, the cracks began to show. Missed appearances, erratic behavior, and increasingly strained relationships became telltale signs. His brothers, heartbroken, tried repeatedly to intervene. They loved him fiercely and watched in agony as he spiraled. Maurice Gibb, in particular, who had battled his own demons, understood the insidious grip of addiction and tried desperately to guide Andy. There were numerous attempts at rehabilitation, periods of sobriety, followed by devastating relapses. The cycle was heartbreakingly familiar to anyone who has witnessed a loved one battle addiction. One particularly poignant anecdote, rarely highlighted, comes from a close family friend who recalled a time when Andy, during a brief period of sobriety, expressed a profound yearning for a simpler life. He spoke of wanting to learn carpentry, to work with his hands, to escape the relentless scrutiny and the overwhelming pressure of fame. This wasn't a passing whim. It was a deep-seated desire for normalcy, for a sense of purpose that didn't involve chasing hits or appeasing record executives. It showed a side of Andy that yearned for peace, for an escape from the golden cage he found himself in. This quiet dream, juxtaposed against his public persona, offers a glimpse into the tragic dichotomy of his life. He was a pop idol, but at his core, he was a gentle soul yearning for tranquility. As the 1980s dawned, the musical landscape shifted once more. Disco's reign was fading, replaced by new wave and synth pop. Andy's hits became fewer, and the chart success that had defined his early career became harder to achieve. While his brothers, the Bee Gees, managed to adapt and continue their careers, Andy, perhaps due to his ongoing struggles, found it difficult to pivot. His final album, After Dark, released in 1980, didn't achieve the same commercial success as his previous works. The music industry, ever fickle, began to move on. This professional decline compounded his personal struggles, creating a vicious cycle of despair and self-medication. He desperately wanted to prove himself, to stand on his own musical merit, but the addiction made sustained effort almost impossible. The controversies surrounding Andy Gibb were less about scandal and more about the tragic consequences of unchecked addiction within the blinding glare of celebrity. His public image as the clean-cut teen idol clashed starkly with the reality of his private battles. The public, especially his younger fans, were largely unaware of the extent of his struggles. They saw the handsome face, heard the beautiful voice, and assumed a life of unadulterated bliss. The historical debate surrounding Andy often revolves around whether his immense talent was overshadowed by his brother's legacy and his personal demons, or if the pressures of fame itself were simply too much for his sensitive nature. Was he a victim of circumstances, or did his choices ultimately lead him down a path he couldn't escape? It's a complex question with no easy answers, Some argue that the sheer scale of the Bee Gees' success created an impossible standard for Andy to meet, pushing him further into the shadows of their fame. Others suggest that his inherent vulnerability, coupled with early exposure to the temptations of the music industry, made him particularly susceptible to addiction. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the nuanced middle. He was undeniably talented, but also profoundly human, with all the frailties that entail. His story became a cautionary tale about the dark side of fame, a stark reminder that even the most glittering success can hide immense personal pain. The final years of Andy's life were marked by a desperate, yet ultimately futile, struggle for sobriety and a return to his musical career. He tried his hand at acting, appearing in a few stage productions, including The Pirates of Penzance on Broadway. He showed flashes of his old brilliance, his charm undeniable, but the underlying addiction continued to plague him. His family, particularly his brothers, continued to offer unwavering support, funding his various rehabilitation attempts and trying to secure him new recording deals. Barry Gibb, always the patriarch figure, kept reaching out, hoping to pull Andy back from the brink. In 1988, there was a glimmer of hope. Andy was reportedly clean and working on new material with his brothers, aiming for a comeback album. The prospect of the four Gibb brothers finally recording together, a dream for many fans, seemed within reach. It was a chance for Andy to reclaim his narrative, to find his footing both personally and professionally. However, the damage to his body had already been done. Years of substance abuse had taken a devastating toll. On March 10, 1988, just 5 days after his 30th birthday, Andy Gibb collapsed at his home in Oxfordshire, England. He was rushed to the hospital suffering from myocarditis and inflammation of the heart muscle, largely attributed to his prolonged battle with addiction. He died shortly after, leaving behind a legacy of beautiful music and a profound sense of what might have been. He was only 30 years old. The news of his death sent shockwaves through the music world and beyond. It was a tragic end to a life that had promised so much. His death underscored the brutal reality of addiction and the devastating toll it takes. The public outpouring of grief was immense, a testament to the emotional connection people felt with him, not just as a pop star, but as a young man who radiated vulnerability and warmth. The long-term importance of Andy Gibb's story extends far beyond his musical achievements. It serves as a powerful, poignant reminder of the precarious balance between talent, fame, and personal well-being. What can we learn from it? We learn that success, even monumental success, does not inoculate one against personal struggles. We learn about the immense pressure placed on young artists, thrust into the unforgiving spotlight, often without the necessary emotional support or coping mechanisms. We learn about the insidious nature of addiction, its ability to erode talent, relationships, and ultimately, life itself. His story also highlights the enduring strength of family bonds, even in the face of immense heartache. The Bee Gees' unwavering love and attempts to save their youngest brother are a testament to their deep connection. Despite their own superstardom and commitments, they consistently prioritized Andy, offering him support, opportunities, and a safe harbor. Emotionally, Andy's life resonates because it embodies the fragility of the human spirit. He was charming, talented, and beautiful, yet deeply troubled. His music, often infused with a yearning romanticism, now takes on a more melancholic hue, imbued with the knowledge of his fate. His short life left an indelible mark, not just through his string of hit songs, but through the narrative of a young man who chased a dream, found it, and then struggled to hold on to himself amidst its overwhelming demands. He mattered because he was a bright, shimmering light that burned out too soon, leaving behind a haunting echo of melodies and what ifs. He was a reminder that behind every celebrity facade, there is a human being with dreams, fears, and vulnerabilities, often navigating immense pressures that few can comprehend. And that's all for today's video. If you liked this video, hit that thumbs up, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and subscribe so you won't miss out on future uploads. See you next time.